Was NXT Heatwave WWE's best show of the year? I'm not 100% sure, but the fact that it's even in question is a testament to how good the show was. They had incredible matches, unpredictability. It seemed like every moment in this show just hit its absolute ceiling of what it could have been, and some of those ceilings I didn't even see myself before the show. So if you see this video, give it a like, leave a comment telling me what you think, and we're going to talk about NXT Heatwave more in depth. A good place to start is the men's main event, which was the Fatal 4-Way for Trick Williams' NXT title, also featuring two older veteran heel workers in Ethan Page and Shawn Spears, as well as an up-and-coming wrestler Javon Evans in his first pay-per-view match. This match benefited from, first, the standout performances of Javon Evans. Him on that stage, doing all those flips and dives, he just really captivated that audience. They really believe in him. Combining that with Trick Williams' just star power, it made for a really entertaining match. They did a great job here. I think everyone actually worked pretty well. Shawn Spears even had some incredible moments during this match. And overall, it really delivered, but the finish was the most important part, and they really nailed it here. And they did something shocking that not a lot of people saw coming. The finish actually played back into the Backlash 2007 finish, when Shawn Michaels sweet chin music John Cena, but he didn't have any power left in him. He collapsed, and then Cena accidentally fell onto Orton. The ref realized it, counted 3, and John Cena won the match without even knowing. And this is the same exact scenario that happened here when Trick Williams hit the trick shot on Ethan Page. Ethan Page fell over unconscious, got the pin. Now, do I think Ethan Page needs some kind of rocket strap push in NXT? No, but if you're gonna do a title change in a Fatal 4-Way, doing a creative finish like this is intriguing enough for me to say, you know what, I'll give it a shot, because while I would love Trick Williams to have a memorable run, it's moments like this that are going to be more memorable than him just facing any of the other mid-card heels that are on the roster. Right now, I think NXT has a lack of mid-card and upper-card heels that are interesting and that could really be challenging for a title. So if there's ever a time to switch it over to the heel side, you have a great group of babyface challengers in Trick, Javon Evans, Wes Lee. You can kind of cycle that for a bit until you get it back on a babyface, and hopefully you build up the heel side a bit more in the meantime. I think this also benefited from the context of where this show was on the weekend. The show was in Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, just a day after Toronto's Money in the Bank. And a lot of my beef with Money in the Bank, the reason I didn't enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed other shows, is because the predictability factor of Triple H being afraid to pull the trigger sometimes on title changes. Very hesitant with Braun Breaker winning. He did not go over. He's been hesitant to get the belt off Priest. He did not lose. And at this point, it really feels like the main roster struggles to kind of pull the trigger sometimes on guys. And NXT, rather than keeping the belt on Trick through this process where maybe there's not a lot of great challengers, they decided, you know what, let's do a shock finish in the main event. Something that will both make Ethan Page look like, you know, maybe a bit fraudulent of a champion, but he'll have opportunities, I'm sure, to defend his belt until he actually loses it. And then also, it'll give Trick a real reason to chase back for that belt. So I love that. I think this is the kind of stuff that we need to be doing more of in wrestling. You need to have more of these unpredictable finishes. And even though I'm not even a huge Ethan Page guy, I think it was a really, really creative way to do that. And remarkably, this is not just a one-match show. This is a 5 out of 5 match show. So to go into the next one, we had Roxanne, Perez, and Lola in the semi-main event. And they did a really good job in this match. I really enjoyed Roxanne's work as a heel. I think at first it was a little bit hard for me to see her cutting promos as a heel. It was a little bit maybe inauthentic or unbelievable for me because, you know, we've seen her so much as a babyface, and just as a young up-and-coming wrestler, she just doesn't, I couldn't buy into her character. But as a wrestling heel, she's really good. This match was cool because there was a lot of awesome offense that Lola was able to counter with submissions, like a lot of great technical wrestlers in these days. And Lola's just really new to wrestling, so it was cool to see just a couple of years of her being in the program, like how smooth some of those transitions looked. They also did a good job of working pretty stiff, and they made Lola look pretty good with needing so many finishes. I think it was 5 pop rocks that Roxanne had to hit on Lola to get the win. So this match was cool to me. It wasn't Roxanne's best match. I think it's hard when you're following up a match with Jordynne Grace, obviously, but I think Lola stepped up here. She looked better coming out of it than I think I kind of expected going in, and yeah, it was a really solid match. The show started with Oba Femi versus Wes Lee, and this match was super fun. It really embodied the perfect underdog babyface trying to overcome the dominant, tall, huge heel, and Oba is just so impressive to me. He had done a lot of triple threats, which I think was a little bit just to, hide his greenness a little bit, to kind of really just emphasize his strengths. But in this one-on-one match, I think Oba definitely looked a little bit gassed at the end. But that being said, his sheer power, his strength, his ability to make these impressive catches out of the air, all of his offense looks incredible to me. I think there's a lot of guys that do power bombs, obviously, in 2024, but almost no one's looked quite as strong as Oba Femi. And when he hit that sit-out power bomb to finish the match, it was incredible to see. Wes looked really good here. I'm wondering where Wes Lee goes after that, but as an opening match, this is about as good of an opener as you could have gotten. And to me, I knew right away, I was like, this might have been the best match of this weekend. And I was just in for a start because there's 2 more matches on the show I haven't talked about yet that I actually liked better than the opener. One of those matches was Ruca versus Kelani Jordan for the NXT Women's North American title. Now, this match may not have been a perfect wrestling match, and at times, like a lot of the NXT matches, it did seem maybe a little over choreographed and like there wasn't a lot of in between. But if you look at this match in the context, these are 2 very young athletes who are extremely early in their careers. Some of the spots that they were able to pull off, not just doing them and going for them, but the way that they made them look, this was like a really impressionable match to me. I saw it, even Ricochet and some other people online were comparing this in some of the sequences to that early Ricochet and Will Ospreay match. And while obviously they definitely were a bit more polished at that point, even early in their career, that's kind of the type of feeling that this match had. It was just incredible gymnastics. They were countering each other's counters. There was a lot of really cool pin combinations and flash pins in this match that it really just made me excited because it made me think, a lot of these young athletes that they got in the Performance Center had never wrestled before. And if they are able to teach them these dynamic other styles of wrestling, not just one standard style, they could really break through whatever glass ceiling is over them. They pulled out a lot of lucha libre in this match with lots of great arm drags and arm tosses and a lot of great reversals, pin combinations. They had great high flying moves. Ruca hit a move I've never seen before, but she did a springboard 450 lariat all in one fluid motion. And to me, I was blown away by this match. Going into it, I really didn't think that this match would get super over with the crowd because, well, they're 2 pretty, they're somewhat well known, but they're not the top of the division, and they're both baby faces. So I thought it may struggle from that, but what they decided to do is say, hey, we're going to have 11 minutes here. Let's just put on the most dynamic, flashy, fun match we can do. And to me, it was a home run. And lastly, we have what I thought was actually the match of the night, and I was completely shocked by. It was Axiom and Nathan Frazer versus Chase U. Now, the reason I was shocked was not because of Axiom and Nathan Frazer, because I am incredibly high on those 2, but Chase U is just not really for me. For my personal taste, it's a little bit over the top, it's a little bit extra corny, it's hard for me to watch sometimes the TV, but really I just also couldn't see him in a big time match that felt big. And to me, you're going to Toronto, you have 10,000 fans in the stands. I didn't think this was the right call as far as who to put in this match, but they completely shut me up. They started this match with a little bit of technical wrestling with Andre Trace and Axiom, kind of going back and forth with counters and some submissions and working each other on the mat. And it quickly builds up, and I thought that the way that at first Axiom and Nathan Frazer were more leaning heel a little bit, which was interesting because Chase U just has that crowd engagement, I guess. But I've never seen Axiom and Frazer as heels. Now, they also, going into this match, they had this dynamic of they're telling the story where Nathan Frazer is not focused right now on the tag team titles. He's going after personal achievements, which one of them was WWE Speed, which that made me laugh. But also the Heritage Cup. So the idea going into this match is probably supposed to lead us to believe that there's a good chance they don't lose these they don't win these titles or retain them here, and maybe they're not on the same page. And it did there was a couple moments in this match where they definitely played into that story, but it was not just that, it was the crispness of the offense. Axiom's kicks and super kicks, there is no one on that roster right now that throws strikes the way Axiom does. And I feel like every time Axiom kicks somebody, like it truly looks like a missile through their skull, and there's no one doing it better. So that combined with Nathan Frazer, he is just so dynamic. He's so quick. To me, like, he's someone you just can't take your eyes off of, and I cannot wait for those two both to have singles runs, but also I need them on main roster, man. They might, but at the same time, they might be at the best tag team right now in WWE. I think they probably are. So this match, it completely over-delivered. I also want to talk about Duke Hudson in this match because he's someone that I've seen bits and pieces of, but to me, he was just an incredible base for those guys. He's a really athletic big man, and he can do really cool stuff. But he also took the offense really well. Him and Chase worked together so well as a tag team, and it was a crazy spot that they pulled off after, I believe it was Axiom and Frazer both did their tandem high flying finishes, and then Chase comes in, jumps off of the pin into a Canadian destroyer. It was just remarkable stuff that, like, it felt like I was not watching NXT. It felt like I was watching a 2021 AEW main event of a TV show. Like, that's the type of investment from the crowd by the end, the engagement, the type of moves that were being pulled off. It was an incredible atmosphere, and to me, it was just the match that I was most shocked by, and my favorite match of the night. The tag match in particular, it wasn't like regular WWE tag matches, where I think a lot of main roster tag team matches are very, very formulaic. They're produced in the same way, where you're just building to the babyface's hot tag and the heel cutoffs, and they're so traditional in their format, but they're also formulaic. And this was not that. There was bombastic offense from both sides. Both sides made big comebacks. The crowd at the end was invested in both teams. Like, this was a crazy competitive match that you are not getting right now on main roster. And I challenge main roster producers to produce more tag matches like this, and honestly, more matches like this card in general. So overall, I thought the show was the 10 out of 10 for me. For an NXT show, it was my favorite one that's happened since the TakeOver era. It was remarkable to me from every step of the way. I thought that there was like some really big shining moments. Javon Evans to me was a star coming out of this. I thought Kelani Jordan and Ruca both incredibly improved their stock to me. Axiom and Nathan Frazer cemented themselves as my favorite tag team, and two guys that I have to see get to main roster soon. Roxanne had another great performance. Lola had a star-making performance. And Javon Evans, again, I think I already said that. Javon Evans, he has arrived. Also, remarkably, this is a 5-match show, just like Money in the Bank. This was over in 2.5 hours, so please take notes, main roster. This is how you pace a pay-per-view. This felt like it flew by. I wanted more at the end. They could have added another match or two to this, and I would have been more than happy, but it was a perfect show, and this is what I want to see more out of NXT, and honestly, main roster WWE. For my more in-depth thoughts on the show, check out my podcast on Thursday with Gerard. It's the Wrestle Hook podcast. We're going to talk about NXT Heatwave, a lot about AEW, and probably some other stuff going on between now and then in the world of wrestling. So check that out. We're live every Thursday at 8 o'clock. And in the meantime, check out the rest of our videos. Thank you for watching, and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about NXT Heatwave and what was your favorite match of the night.